James Riley Blake is a former American professional tennis player. Blake is known for his speed and powerful, flat forehand. During his career, Blake had amassed 24 singles finals appearances, while his career-high singles ranking was world number 4. His career highlights included reaching the final of the 2006 Tennis Masters Cup, the semifinals of the Beijing Olympics and the quarterfinals of the Australian Open and US Open, as well as being the former American number 1. His 2 titles for the United States at the Hopman Cup are an event record. Blake was a key performer for the United States 2007 Davis Cup championship team, going to a 0-0 in the championship tie versus Russia at second singles. In 2005, Blake was presented with the Comeback Player of the Year award for his remarkable return to the tour. Later, in 2008, Blake was awarded another honor by the ATP, where he was named the Arthur Ashe Humanitarian of the Year. On July 3, 2007, Blake's autobiography Breaking Back, How I Lost Everything and Won Back My Life, which discussed his comeback after his unlucky 2004 season, was released and debuted at number 22 on the New York Times bestseller list. He co-wrote this book with Andrew Friedman. Blake announced that he would retire from tennis after competing at the 2013 US Open, to which he suffered a first-round loss after 5 sets against Ivo Karlovic. Blake's career ended on August 29, 2013, after a 6-2-2, 6-2, 6 doubles loss in the 2013 US Open. Early life: Blake was born in Yonkers, New York, to an African-American father Thomas Reynolds Blake and a British mother Betty. He has a brother Thomas, who has also been a professional tennis player, and 3 older half-brothers, Jason, Christopher and Howard, and a half-sister Michelle. Blake started playing tennis at age 5 alongside his brother Thomas. When he was 13, he was diagnosed with severe scoliosis and for 5 years as a teenager he was forced to wear a full-length back brace for 18 hours a day, though not while playing tennis. The Blake family moved to Fairfield, Connecticut when Blake's father's job selling surgical supplies took him from New York to Hartford, Connecticut. Blake attended Fairfield High School, where a schoolmate and childhood friend was future musician John Mayer. Blake was inspired to pursue tennis after hearing his role model Arthur Ashe speak to the Harlem Junior Tennis Program. Brian Barker was his first coach. He left Harvard University, where he was a member of the AD Club, after his sophomore year to pursue a career in professional tennis. Career: 2001 Euro 2004, making a name and breaking neck. 2001, at the age of 21, Blake saw his first Davis Cup action in 2001 against India and became the 3rd person of African American heritage to play for the Davis Cup for the United States. Ranked number 120 in the world, Blake accepted a wild card into Cincinnati. He beat a qualifier and unauthorized copyright meant to reach the round of 16, where he met Patrick Rafter. Blake came close to winning the first set, and after dropping the second set, Rafter, according to Blake's autobiography, complimented him at the net and boosted his confidence immeasurably by saying, "Now do you believe you can beat someone like me, or even me?" Blake's name became more recognizable worldwide after he pushed the eventual champion Lleyton Hewitt to 5 sets at the US Open before losing 4-6, 6-3, 6-2, 3-6, 0-6. 2002, in January 2002, Blake won the 2002 USTA Waikoloa Challenger in Hawaii. A month later in Memphis he posted his first win over a top 10 ranked opponent, Tommy Haas, who was then ranked number 5, and reached the final, losing to Andy Roddick. He reached the quarterfinals at the ATP Masters Series event in Rome in May and the final at Newport in July. In August, in Cincinnati, he won his first career ATP Tour title and his first ATP Masters Series title. It came in doubles with Todd Martin, making Blake the first African-American male to win a title of any kind in Cincinnati's 101-year history. He was also the first African-American to reach a final in Cincinnati since 1969, when Arthur Ashe reached a doubles finals with Charlie Passerell. The next week in Washington, he won his first ATP Tour singles title, beating Andre Agassi in the semi-finals and Pauradorn Srikefan in the final. At the US Open, he reached the third round, where he again faced the top-ranked and world number 1 Lleyton Hewitt for the rematch of the previous year. In an entertaining match, Blake was again defeated in 5 sets 7-6, 5, 3-6, 4-6, 6-3, 3-6. 2003. In 2003, his best results were a quarterfinals appearance at Indian Wells, a round of 16 finish at the Australian Open, Cincinnati, and Miami, a semi-final appearance at San Jose, and a finals appearance at Long Island where he lost to Srikefan. Blake was eliminated from the US Open in the third round by Roger Federer. 2004. 2004 was a difficult year for Blake as he went through the series of unfortunate and overwhelming moments. In May, while practicing with Robbie Ginprey for the Masters event in Rome, he broke his neck when he slipped on the clay and collided with the net post. In July, his father died of stomach cancer. At the same time, Blake developed shingles, which temporarily paralyzed half his face and blurred his sight. 2005. A Euro 2008, rising to the elite and top 10 years. 2005, Blake's injuries and personal issues caused him to post relatively poor results for the first half of 2005. By April his ranking was 210. He decided to play the Challenger circuit, the minor leagues of tennis, in order to gain confidence and get more matches. In May he entered events in Tunica, Mississippi and Forest Hills, New York, winning both. He rejoined the ATP circuit and by August reached a final at the International Series event in Washington, D.C., where he fell to Roddick. He was given a wild card into AMS Cincinnati, drawing Federer in the first round. He then won the Pilot Pen Tennis Tournament in New Haven, Connecticut, defeating Feliciano Lacube-Pez in the final. After New Haven he was ranked 49. He accepted a wild card into the US Open where he recorded a memorable run. After defeating number 2 Rafael Nadal in the round of 32, he beat Tommy Robredo in 4 sets to reach the quarter-finals where he faced Andre Agassi. The late evening match is considered one of the greatest classics in the tournament's history. Blake was up 2 sets and a break in the third before Agassi making a comeback to eventually win in a 5th-set tiebreak. After the match Agassi claimed that "I wasn't the winner, tennis was." Later that year, in October at the Stockholm Open, Blake won his third ATP Tour title, defeating Srikefan in the final. Blake finished 2005 ranked 22 in the world. 2006. At the beginning of 2006 Blake won the title at Sydney, taking his 4th ATP Tour title defeating Russian Igor Andreev in the final. At the Australian Open he was seeded 20th, and despite losing in the third round to Spaniard Tommy Robredo he broke into the top 20 for the first time in his career. In March he beat Hewitt in the final at Las Vegas for his 5th ATP Tour title. At the first AMS event of the year Indian Wells, Blake defeated Robredo in the third round and world number 2 Nadal in the semi-finals, reaching his first career ATP Masters Series singles final, losing in the final to Federer. By reaching the final, Blake became the first African-American man since Arthur Ashe to reach the world's top 10. At the French Open he defeated Spaniard Nicolas Almagro in 4 sets in the second round, to become the last remaining American, and then was beaten by Frenchman Gaël Monfils in 5 sets. Beginning the grass court season at the Stella Artois Championships, he defeated Andy Roddick in the semi-finals, losing to Lleyton Hewitt in the final. Ranked number 5, Blake took part in the International Series at Indianapolis. He won the singles title, defeating Roddick. At the US Open he reached the quarterfinals, losing to top seed and defending champion Roger Federer. In that match Blake won his first set against Federer, winning the third set in a tiebreaker 11-9. In his debut appearance at the Thailand Open in Bangkok, Blake won his 7th singles title, defeating Jarko Niemann in the quarterfinals, Marat Safin in the semi-finals, and Ivan Ljubier in the final. 2 weeks later Blake won his 5th title of 2006, defending his 2005 title in Stockholm, defeating Jarko Niemann. For the first time, Blake qualified for the Tennis Masters Cup in Shanghai. He went 2-1 in the gold group, defeating number 2 Nadal and number 3 Nikolay Davydenko, while losing to number 6 Tommy Robredo. He qualified for the semi-finals, beating defending champion David Nalbandian, losing the final to Federer. Blake finished 2006 at a career-high world number 4 and as the highest-ranked American tennis player. 2007 In 2007 Blake won at the Sydney International for the second consecutive year. However, he then suffered a disappointing loss in the round of 16 at the Australian Open, losing to 10th seed and eventual finalist Fernando Gonzalez. In February, Blake made it to the final of the Delray Beach tournament, but lost it to the Belgian Xavier Malisse in 3 tight sets. At the 2007 Tennis Channel Open in Las Vegas, as the defending champion, he was involved with a deep controversy. It was one of the several tournaments experimenting with the new round-robin format, and Blake had lost his first match to Evgeny Korolov. Korolov lost his other match to Juan Martín del Potro. In order for Blake to advance to the quarters, he had to defeat Del Potro in straight sets while losing 5 games or less. This would result in a 3-way tie, with Blake losing the fewest games. With Blake leading 6-1, 3-1, Del Potro retired. This eliminated Del Potro from the 3-way tie as he failed to complete one of his matches. Korolov then moved on to the next round, breaking the tie because he had defeated Blake in their match. Soon after, the organizers overruled the tournament guidelines, giving Blake a place in the quarterfinals. The following morning, however, they changed the decision once again, and as a result, Korolov re-advanced to the quarterfinals, sending Blake to Indian Wells without a third consecutive title defense. Shortly after this incident, the ATP decided to cancel the round-robin format, reverting any tournaments planning a round-robin draw to the standard single-elimination draw. During the summer hard-court season, he advanced to his second career ATP Masters Series final. At AMS Cincinnati, he beat Alejandro Falla, Nicolas Kiefer, Juan Carlos Ferrero, Sam Querrey and Nikolay Davydenko en route to the final before falling to Roger Federer. He won the singles title at Penn Pilot in New Haven, Connecticut, and reached the final at Los Angeles, losing to Raid Gangstrom Taperneck in 3 sets after having 3 set points in the first set. In the second round of the 2007 US Open, he won his first career 5-set match against Fabrice Santoro. Blake made it to the 4th round, where he lost to number 10 Tommy Haas in 5 sets, despite having match points in the 5th set. In September, Blake and the rest of the U.S. Davis Cup team defeated Sweden to reach the finals against Russia. Blake lost in the 3rd round of Paris to Richard Gasquet and thus finished outside the top 8 players, losing his chance to defend the points he gained as finalist in the 2006 Tennis Masters Cup. In the 2007 Davis Cup Finals, Blake won his match against Mikhail Yuzny after Andy Roddick had beaten Dmitry Tisson in the first rubber. The next day, Bob and Mike Bryan won the doubles rubber over Igor Andreev and Nikolay Davydenko, sealing the Davis Cup win for the United States. Blake also defeated Tisson in the last match of the finals to give Team USA 4-1 win. 2008, at the Australian Open, Blake defeated his first-round opponent, Chilean Nicolas Massa. He then defeated compatriot Michael Russell. In the 3rd round, he fought back from 2 sets down to beat French veteran czar copyright Bastien Grosjean, who had beaten him in each of their 3 previous meetings. In the 4th round, Blake beat Marin Oier in 3 sets to advance to the quarterfinals, his best showing yet down under. In the quarterfinal, Blake faced world number 1 Roger Federer, and fell in straight sets. Although out of the Australian Open, Blake's ranking jumped back into the top 10 to number 9 following his best performance in the tournament yet. In Delray Beach, Blake made it to the final for the second consecutive year, but fell to number 244 Kari Nishikori of Japan in 3 sets in the final. At the 2008 Pacific Life Open, Blake reached the quarterfinals before losing to Rafael Nadal in 3 sets. They met again in the next tournament at the 2008 Miami Masters, also in the quarterfinals, and again Blake lost to Nadal in 3 sets. Blake then started the clay court season at the River Oaks International Tournament in Houston, Texas. In his second ATP final of the year and his first career clay court final, Blake fell to Spaniard Marcel Granollers Pujol. In August 2008, Blake represented the United States as one of its 3 men's singles tennis players in the Beijing Olympics. In the quarterfinals, he gained one of the biggest wins of his career with his first ever win over Roger Federer 6-4, 7-6. At the time, Federer was ranked as the world's #1 men's player. His semi-final match was against Fernando Gonzalez, the men's singles bronze medalist at the 2004 Olympics in Athens. Blake had triple match point in the middle of the final set, but would go on to lose 11-9 in the final set. He then lost in the bronze medal match to Serbian Novak Djokovic. In the US Open, Blake was stretched to a 5-set thriller against American teenager Donald Young in the first round. Blake easily won his second-round match after Steve Darcy retired and then lost to friend and fellow American Mardy Fish in the third round in straight sets. 2009-2013, past his prime period. 2009, Blake defeated Frank Dancevic in the first round of the Australian Open. His success continued in the second round after deposing of Frenchman Tsar copyright Bastien de Traunac in a match laden with spectator noise and bad line calls. Blake went on to face the 18th seed, Igor Andreev, in the third round and beat him. He lost in the fourth round in straight sets to the 2008 runner-up Jo-Wilfried Tsonga. At the 2009 Estoril Open, Blake advanced to his first clay court final on European soil, after beating second seed and former Estoril Open champion Nikolay Davydenko in a rain-interrupted semi-final that was carried over due to bad light. Blake was defeated by Spain's Albert Monte ± a copyright S later that day in the finals. The 28-year-old Montaigne saved 2 match points at 4-5 in the second set and fought back to beat fourth-seeded Blake in 2 hours and 14 minutes. At the Aigan Championships at Queen's Club, Blake defeated Ivan Ljubier, Sam Querrey, and Mikhail Yuzny to reach the semi-finals. He then reached the final after Andy Roddick retired with an ankle injury in the first set when the score was tied at 4 games all. He then went on to lose in the final to Andy Murray. After being eliminated in the first round of the singles, Blake partnered with compatriot Mardy Fish at the Wimbledon men's doubles. The Americans advanced to the semi-finals where they lost to defending champions Daniel Nestor and Nenad Zamunja despite winning the first 2 sets. Following a third-round loss at the 2009 US Open to Spain's Tommy Robredo, Blake split with longtime coach Brian Barker. He was replaced by Kelly Jones. 2010, Blake started his 2010 campaign at the Brisbane International in Australia where Blake lost to Gaël Monfils in the quarterfinals. At the 2010 Australian Open, Blake defeated French veteran Arnaud Clacopyrightment in the first round. He then faced fourth-seed and US Open champion Juan Martín del Potro in the second round, losing a classic in 5 grueling sets, 8-10 in the last one. On April 14, Blake announced that he would be taking the clay court season off with a serious knee injury. As a result of this injury, Blake missed the French Open for the first time since 2004. Blake returned to action at Wimbledon, where he lost to Dutchman Robin Haas. The result was surprising considering that Haas lost badly to Blake earlier in the season at Delray Beach. During this match, Blake harshly accused ESPN commentator and former WTA player Pam Shriver of disrupting play due to her overly loud commentary from the box situated above the court behind him. This led to a verbal exchange between the two during the match. After the match, an emotional Blake declared that if his knee problems did not subside he may consider retirement. Blake, who refuses to take any anti-inflammatories for his knee, called his performance embarrassing, and said "I can't beat these guys at 80%. Despite these comments, Blake chose to continue his rehab to prepare for the U.S. hardcourt season. At the Los Angeles Open, Blake's singles fate took a turn for the better. Prior to the tournament, Blake told the LA Times that retirement was no longer a thought, and that he was not done yet. In New Haven, his hometown tournament where he had claimed titles in 2005 and 2007, Blake made an impressive display and ousted world number 76 Bariba in the first round, converting 5 of 11 breakpoint opportunities. Blake won the lightning-quick match in a minuscule 35 minutes, making it the shortest match win of 2010. At the 2010 US Open, Blake advanced to the third round, losing to eventual finalist Novak Djokovic. Blake finished the year ranked outside the top 100 for the first time since 2000. 2011, before the beginning of the 2011 tennis tour, Blake ended his partnership with coach Kelly Jones, choosing to travel alone. In a pre-season interview, Blake stated he was healthy and carrying a positive attitude and would skip the Australian Open. In his first match of the year, on February 8 at the SAP Open in San Jose, Blake defeated American qualifier Jesse Levine after Levine succumbed to an injury late in the second set. The American ran into red-hot Canadian youngster Milos Raonic in the second round and fell after battling back from a late breakdown in the second set to force a tiebreaker. Raonic would go on to win the tournament, his first as a pro. In the 2011 US Open, Blake hit a forehand winner on match point against Jesse Hootigalang in the first round that was clocked at 125 mph, thus making it the fastest forehand ever hit, eclipsing Gore L. Monfils's earlier record of 122 mph against Marcos Baghdatis. Blake won the match but lost to David Ferrer. 2012-13, after having an unspectacular year in 2012, ranked number 123 in the world, Blake started the 2013 season by playing the qualifying rounds of Australian Open, where he lost to fellow American Donald Young in the second qualifying round. Blake signed up for BNP Paribas Open in Indian Wells, California. He claimed an emotional win over Robin Haas but lost to world number 8 Jo-Wilfried Tsonga in the second round. He also played in the Miami Masters and reached the third round, losing to Albert Ramos. He skipped the whole clay court season except his first round exit to Gael Monfils in the U.S. Men's Clay Court Championships and his first round loss to Victor Troicki in the French Open. At Wimbledon, Blake convincingly beat Thiemo de Bacca 6-1, 6-3, 6-2 in just 71 minutes. Unfortunately, for fans of the American, he lost to Bernard Tomic 6-3, 6-4, 7-5 in the next round. Prior to the 2013 US Open, Blake announced that the tournament would be his last and that he would retire from tennis. In the singles, he lost in the fifth set tiebreak to Ivo Karlovic, despite leading 2-0 after the first two sets. His last professional match was a first-round defeat in the doubles where, partnered with Jack Sock, they were beaten by Alexander Payer and Bruno Soares. Playing style: Blake is primarily an offensive baseliner. Blake is known for possessing one of the most powerful forehands in the game, with a solid transition game, and an effective serve and volleys. Blake also possesses extremely quick footwork, although many claim that he needs to work on changing direction. Blake's reputation as a shot maker, combined with potentially high-error flat ground strokes, make his style of play notably flashy, characterized by both a high number of winners and unforced errors. In turn, this makes Blake's game somewhat streaky, as evidenced by his playing history. Equipment and endorsements: Blake worked with Prince to create a new racket with Prince's O3 technology. However, he did not feel comfortable with this racket. So, he switched back to the Dunlop Sporter Rogel 200, then the 4D 200, for the 2009 season. He changed to Wilson at the start of the 2010 season, using the new 6-1 toy strung with Luxilin Big Banger L Power 16L strings at high tension. He did not feel comfortable with this racket either. Therefore, he switched back to Dunlop again. After the US Open of 2010, he began to test out rackets for head. As August 26, 2011, he announced he will use Donné rackets as his choice and using a customized Donné X Dual Pro. His clothing sponsor is Fila, with whom he started working in 2009 after using Nike for most his career. He has his own clothing line named Thomas Reynolds Collection after his father. Blake signed an endorsement deal with Evian in 2005 and his contract was extended in 2008. Personal life: Blake enjoys golf and basketball and is a fan of the New York Mets. He was featured on Bravo's second edition of Celebrity Poker Showdown but got second after losing to Maura Tierney. Blake was also a Red Pro on Full Tilt Poker. though he has not been active there since shortly before Black Friday. He appeared in People magazine's Sexiest Man Alive issue. He is good friends with singer-songwriter John Mayer, who also attended Fairfield High School. When Blake was invited by Virginia's Anthem Insurance to do a cancer charity game honoring his late father, he invited John Mayer, Andy Roddick and Gavin DeGraw to perform. On November 9, 2012, Blake married Emily Snyder, a publicist, in a beach ceremony in California. They have 2 daughters. On May 7, 2014, 4 dead bodies were discovered after a fire in a Tampa mansion that Blake owned and was leasing out. A neighbor, who was walking her dog, heard a loud explosion and saw a house engulfed in flames around 5:40 a.m., and called 911. The victims have been identified as Darren Campbell, his wife, Kim, and their children, Colin, 19, and Megan, 16. Philanthropy. Blake has a foundation called the James Blake Foundation, which invests vital seed money at the leading edge of science, speed up the most promising work, and shortening the time it takes to turn lab discoveries into better treatments for patients. Since 2005, he has hosted Anthem Live, a charity tennis exhibition and musical event in Virginia and New York City to raise money for cancer research. In July 2008, Blake established the Thomas Blake, Sr. Memorial Research Fund to support cancer research at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. The fund was named in memory of his father, who died from gastric cancer in 2004. Nike and Filer, which sponsored Blake, created T-shirts for Blake's charity, the J-Block program, and proceeds went to the Cancer Research Fund. Significant finals: Olympic Games, singles, 1, year-end championships finals, singles, 1, Masters 1000 finals, singles, 2, doubles, 1, ATP Career Finals, singles, 24, doubles, 10, team tournaments, 2, singles performance timeline, current through 2013 US Open. Doubles performance timeline, current till 2013 US Open. Notes. Further reading: Blake, James. Friedman, Andrew L. Breaking Back: How I Lost Everything and Won Back My Life. New York, HarperCollins. ISBN 0-06-134349-8, external links, James Blake official website, James Blake at the Association of Tennis Professionals, James Blake at the International Tennis Federation, James Blake at the Davis Cup.